All right, this is Discuss EDM episode 5. Yeah, 5 now. With myself, Matt Jadon. My guest today, I did look this up, it's Crvvcks, isn't it? That's how you pronounce
Crvvcks,
it.
yeah. It's Crvvcks.
But your real name is Joe, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so Crvvcks, otherwise known as Joe. I started listening to your music probably about 2 years ago now, mate. I remember.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I had a job in London, and I used to have to walk half an hour from Waterloo to like Elephant and Castle every day, and I was just super into just listening to brand new. I almost challenged myself to listen to new stuff every day, and I made this massive like summer playlist, and I looked back through, and actually like loads of your music was coming up in it, and it's all that kind of. Do you ever hear of a DJ duo called Envoy?
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that, and I absolutely loved those guys back in the day. So that's kind of how I know of you and of your music, and I've obviously started doing some house music myself now, so I'm really trying to get integrated a bit more with people like yourself and other DJs and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, the way I've done it with everyone else I've had on is just kind of start off by doing a bit of a background dive, really. So like how did you get into house music? How did you get into dance music and producing it and whatnot?
Thank you. Anyway, I got into it just through like I always loved music anyway. I think from an early age, I remember like my sister, she would always like show me like tracks, and I'd always listen to them. So kind of like from early days, I was always like quite really into music, and then obviously it got to a point where like, you know, like dubstep, that was really big in school. So I remember like that was a period, and then I kind of just got, like stumbled into house music.
Nice.
Like liking house music. It's about like 2014 now.
Okay.
Then I tried to start making music on my family computer actually. So I remember I downloaded FL Studio on my family computer and started trying to make music, so I started making music, and then now I'm where I am now. So
awesome, man. Yeah, because I guess we're similar ages, right? You're 25 as well.
25.
Yeah. So like dubstep back in the day, like 2009, 2010. I remember that period pretty fondly. Yeah, yeah, it was good, man. I literally took a deep dive back to all of those tunes recently. I was listening to like some old Nero stuff, like just to see if they put anything new out. But yeah, that's awesome. So like obviously you started producing when did you say, like house kind of 2014 kind of period?
Yeah.
Was there any kind of like strong initial influences in terms of like what got you into house music from other electronic music?
I say to be honest with you, I think one of the earliest like introductions to house music was like Disclosure.
Nice.
That's sort of like 2012 to 14 era of like house music, when like trying to think now, you know, that Second City, those sorts of like like Julia Bashmore, those sorts of tunes really. The Arsev, the Julia Bashmore Arsev, those were like my first introductions. I remember because I'm from like near Doncaster, and I remember going to Leeds one year. I think it was 2013, and there was like the Relentless stage. They have like a Relentless stage. I remember going to see, I can't remember which DJ it was. I don't think they were like a big DJ, and they were playing like these tunes, and I remember like looking at these two guys like DJ and thinking, oh, that'd be quite sick to do. So it's very cliche, like, but it's like, I think I've always looked at that's like being an artist as something I wanted to aspire to anyway.
Yeah. Nice. That was a really solid like period of music. I remember that, like Disclosure. You had like you said, Second City were popping up. Like I went to university in 2013, and that was just as that kind of house music was popping off. So that was all you could hear. Like whenever you went out, it was like the shitty like chart music for a little bit, and then all the really good house music. And I was like, nice, this is sick.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I was just gonna say, like I went to uni as well in 2014. So I went to uni in Leeds.
Oh, sick.
That was like literally the kind of music that you would hear like on a night out.
What's the nightlife like in Leeds?
In Leeds, to be honest, at the minute it's not as great.
Not right now.
Not right now, exactly. But I mean, a lot of places actually have shut down.
Oh, really?
Even before the COVID stuff, like a lot of places kind of like shut down. It's a place called Church.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's shut down. I was like, that's not owned by the university. They bought it, I think anyway, allegedly. I'm not fully sure yet. But I used to work in a venue actually called Canal Mills.
Okay.
In Leeds.
Nice.
And yeah, that shut down. I think that's like a gentrification sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, man, that happened. But yeah, Leeds used to be like a really good night out. Like back in the day, like there's like literally a place you could go to like every almost every day of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you think that was quite influential in terms of like turning house music and clubbing and DJing and all that stuff from a hobby into like, okay, actually I really want to like give this a proper crack?
Yeah, definitely. I think my time in Leeds was definitely like the biggest thing in my career, like my music career anyway. Because I'm like, even just like nightlife, it's also the people I've met as well. Like, I think because I used to actually be in a house with a couple of other producers as well.
Oh, sick!
So as well, Mad Villains, he's also a producer. Mad Villa.
Nice.
I was with a guy called Dean, and he was one half of Linear.
Okay, sick.
And also Neve is actually a producer as well.
Nice.
He's like a really sick producer actually. He's actually done a lot of stuff with Joel Corey.
Oh, sick.
Gorgon City. I've actually been writing with him for my next one as well. So.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
So you were kind of like spoiled for like not choice, but like surrounded by like other people doing the same thing.
Surrounded by There's also Just Kidding as well. Lewis from Just Kidding.
No way.
Like, he was in Leeds. So
I fuck with his. Is it one guy or was Just Kidding two?
It's two of them.
Yeah.
It's Lewis and Laurie. Laurie is based in I think Sheffield. I'm not sure. But,
right.
Yeah. So I had like
I've been slamming their music for literally the whole of the past year. Like what did Time Alone, that track they did like relatively recently.
Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Sick of that.
That's
sick.
wicked.
So I had like all those sorts of people, and they knew also like a lot of DJs that were coming to town.
Yeah.
So it was quite sick that whenever there was either like anyone that came in and played it like in Leeds, would always go and see them. So from that I've like met people like Jay Pryor, who's like sick as well.
Yeah.
Sick producer, Jay Pryor, Endor, people like that, like Endor. I think Huxley, like all these sorts of DJs I've come to Leeds, and yeah, it's great to like network with those sorts of people and like kind of speak to them about music.
Absolutely, yeah, that's awesome, man. You're absolutely spoiled for choice in terms of like people you were living with, but also networking with. I remember I went to uni in Reading, and we had like some decent people come down, but I don't think we ever really had any like there's no one I know now who's big as a DJ or producer who was like up and coming in Reading at the time. Like it wasn't really that sort of place, so I didn't really have the same kind of networking. But I always tell people, especially like people who are a bit younger who might message me on Instagram or whatnot, like, how do I get started? How do I start meeting people? And I'm like, you have to network in person. Like that's just
100%,
so key.
man, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. What did you study at uni?
So I studied music production.
Oh, sick. Okay.
So yeah, studied music production at Beckett, at Leeds Beckett University.
Nice. And what were your thoughts on the course?
I thought the course was decent. I think the best thing about the course is that you had like all these really sick studios that you could go in all 24 hours.
Oh, nice.
Like the coursework, I mean, it was all right. I think it could have been a bit better, but yeah, just being in like that area, it was really sick to like to meet like-minded people, really.
Yeah. So Did you have access to like other? Was it people just doing like electronic music, or were there people doing normal stuff as well?
Yeah, so there's people from all sorts of different genres.
Nice.
That were doing the course, But yeah, it was a really sick time.
Yeah.
I really think my time at Leeds was the best thing.
Yeah, it sounds
for
fun,
my
man.
music career. Yeah.
And when did you graduate? Like 2016, 2017?
I graduated 2 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Nice.
2 years ago. Yeah.
And how have things like progressed since then? Obviously, like once you leave uni, for a lot of people, like especially ones I've spoken to who are in like creative fields, like you've got this nice structured program for like however long it is, 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, shit, I've got my degree, like I've done that, like how do I actually turn this into a profession now that I've left the kind of structured educational space?
Yeah, definitely. I think at first it was kind of like, oh shit, like what am I doing now? I've got to try and make this like a career now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I lived in Leeds for like a year, and then I thought to myself, oh, I'm gonna come back home and just like try and smash it with music.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I've been doing, really. Like, I mean, I'd say this is probably my biggest year, and I've been making music now. I think it's like 9 years now.
Nice.
9 years. So it's definitely a case of just being really consistent with working on music. Like, as long as you work like as hard as you can on something and you stick at it, I feel like you can kind of like become like really big within that career.
Yeah.
With your career path anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like there's this sense of like, I don't know what the right word is, but some people, I certainly had this, some people get the impression that there's only like a finite amount of space to be like a DJ and producer, or like a successful DJ and producer. But then people don't realize like, well, if I like house music, I'm not going to be like, right, I'm only going to listen to like 4 or 5 DJs. Like I will listen to literally hundreds, if not thousands, if I could, you know, like you're not limited success wise to like space. So I definitely agree with that sentiment, like just absolutely slamming it and kind of trying to make the most out of it. So in terms of what that looked like on a day to day, like did you have a day job, or were you just kind of at home slamming it, like minimal bills, I imagine?
Yeah, so I'm still in a day job actually. Still work in a bar.
Nice.
But it's getting to the point now because I've just like obviously signed a record deal with Sony.
Sick.
And
I didn't know that, but just a full disclaimer, I should have done way more prep than I actually did. I normally do quite a bit, but I completely like just pushed it to the wire. So we're freewheeling it. But that's sick. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Cheers. So yeah, AMPM, my latest one, that came out on Sony.
That's wicked.
So I mean, things are like I like literally on the up, and yeah, I feel like it's getting to a stage now where I can like make this my like full-time job.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
So mate, I wonder if you could like speak on that a little bit more. Like how did that come about? How did you actually get to the point where you're now signed to Sony, like one of the biggest record labels in the world?
I know. So I think it was February this year. I switched up at like a lot of things. Obviously, coming back home, working on music, I switched up managers, and I got in contact with this guy called Chris Ruin, and I sent him like a couple of bits, and there was one tune that I made which is now AMPM, and I remember this is like a year ago now, September. I was on my way to work actually, and I remember the night before I was in that sort of YouTube rabbit hole where you just constantly like listening to music, old tunes, and that Rui de Silva came up, and so on my way to work, and I had done like a couple of sessions in London actually with, and one of them was with Adam Englefield, who is one half of Blonde.
Oh, sick.
So I'd done like a few sessions with him, and I remember messaging him on the way to work and just like, oh, no one has actually really done this, like a new version of this. And he was like, no way, I've literally got it recorded. Like he had got it recorded and everything. And that day after work, he sent it to me, and I started like working on it, and did a couple of versions that were not the greatest, I would say. So then I sent it to Chris in February. Then me and him, we just both worked on it. He kind of like showed me what I needed. I went back and forth. there's so many versions of it now. I think we did like a good 70 different versions.
70, like 70.
Yeah, 70. Yeah,
shit.
Like a lot of versions back and forth, and he was like, yeah, this is the one. Then, because like Chris is like a whiz with stuff like this, he literally found who the original writer for the song is.
Right.
Turns out it was Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet.
Yeah.
So, and then he heard it, like, approved it. I think there's another two publishers. I think it was Sony ATV and I can't remember the other one, to be fair. I can't remember. Oh yeah, Cobalt. It was Cobalt.
06.
And got it all cleared through them. And then we went to Sony. I think he had a contact at Sony, and then they liked it and wanted to sign it.
That's wicked, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That must be like a nice, I don't know, I was talking about this with one of the previous guests, like it's sometimes you feel like you're kind of slogging away on music for however long, like you said yourself, like you're at home for quite a while just grinding away, and like you don't have those milestones sometimes that kind of keep you going. Like you either have that massive goal of like I've signed a record deal or I've signed this song, or you don't, and like sometimes it's quite hard to like keep yourself motivated and ticking along when you don't have those little victories. So is that song signed, or are you now signed as an artist? Like how's that working?
So it was that song that was that we signed, but we've gone back and there's more singles to the deal now. I'm not too sure how many singles as of yet, but yeah, there's I think there's more music coming out. So.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. I think that's really cool for just like house music in general, especially your style, because like your style is very melodic, it's very upbeat, but it still, to me anyway, has that kind of slightly undergroundy type edge. Like you could get away with playing that in any venue at any nightclub, whereas some of the stuff that's popping off in the charts at the moment, like you mentioned Joel Corey, for example, like yeah, that I really like that kind of music, but people who like really underground kind of house would probably sort of turn their nose up at that a little bit. So I think that's really cool that like you've got big labels buying into your sound. What have you got planned for kind of 2021? Have you got any gigs lined up yet, or is that just a complete shit show still? Like,
yeah, it still is, man. It still is.
Yeah.
I mean, at the minute, I've not even had the conversation with my man, with Chris yet about shows.
Yeah.
Because it's got to the point now where all I'm thinking about is getting music out there.
Yeah.
To actually be able to get them big shows.
Yeah.
So I think at the minute, I think all I'm focusing on is getting a portfolio of tracks to be able to play.
Yeah.
So I feel as soon as you become an artist who's established for their music, shows will just follow.
Absolutely.
That's something that you really need to to focus on when you first start in.
100%.
Try and get yourself to a stage where you have like a good body of work, especially for any musician, really, not just in the dance music scene, I feel.
Yeah, especially nowadays, right? Because like back in the day, you could make a living off just selling music, whereas now it's kind of, I mean, we kind of reverted back to that. I mean, coronavirus, like people are relying a lot more on streams and purchases, but like up until recently, it was like you said, you build the portfolio, you build that fan base, and then you go off and do tours and shows and that kind of stuff, and that's how you make your living. I just want to take it back a little bit. So obviously you're now at like record label signed, like, you know, you've got big stuff in the works. Like the first initial bit, before you had a manager, before you actually were making any sort of revenue from your music, like how did you, well, first and foremost, how did you go about getting a manager, for instance? How did you start sort of building those connections within your network?
So initially, Chris is actually my third manager I've had, actually.
Oh,
so
damn.
I was managed by my first ever manager, actually. She was at my college, so I went to college in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And she was part of the same. Their offices were part of the same building as the college. So I literally, I think it was one of my teachers said, if you ever needed a manager, you should go and speak to them. So I remember like one time, like after my lessons, I kind of just went up and said, I'm an artist, would you like to manage me? And then kind of came from there. So I think if you want a manager, you kind of obviously start the work, start being an artist and showing that you have a body of work. And then kind of just network with people. I think that's the best thing. Get yourself out there and show to people that you mean business, really. Like, I think that's like the best thing to do.
Absolutely, man. And in terms of like getting those first shows booked, was it kind of a similar process? So you started to do like smaller stuff, or did you jump straight into like big shows straight away? Like how did you build up that side of being a DJ and producer?
I think if you went with DJing, it's just the exact same, really. Like if you wanna DJ, it's just networking. Actually, like I had like a small like residency happening in Leeds, and before COVID, I was supposed to be playing with, I think it's Claptones or something like that, and that would have been like one of my biggest gigs.
Oh, that's such a bummer.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. That would have been like, I was looking forward to it so much, and then obviously like this COVID happened. But I think the way in which I actually got that was just through messaging the promoter. I found his email, and I was just showing him like music I've done. I was like hammering it. I added him on Facebook, emailing him. So obviously don't like annoy the person, but kind of like just keep like show them that you do mean business. Maybe like check in every month or so, or bi-weekly or something like that. But I think it's important to kind of essentially show that you mean like business, if that makes sense. Because these sorts of people, like, imagine they get emails all the time, like. So I think as long as you stand out and you kind of show that you have like a good like catalogue behind you, it can kind of get you those sorts of gigs.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that goes hand in hand? Because one thing I've noticed about your Instagram in particular, like I'm personally doing a lot of work with a music marketing guru, I don't know if that's the right word, like coach, whatever, to try and, because my social media was shit last year, like I literally had like nothing on it, I barely even had one for my music. So all of a sudden, you know, like you start working on your own Instagram, you start becoming acutely aware of like what looks sick in other people's. And I've noticed with yours, like there's a real aesthetic, like a certain aesthetic that you've got, like just with your branding and like the whole kind of film photography stuff. And like first of all, I think that's sick. Like I think that's really cool as just a vibe in general. But do you think that kind of goes hand in hand with that kind of messaging outreach? Do you think labels would take you more seriously if you've got a well presented, kind of nicely done brand that's kind of coherent and matches your sound?
Yeah, definitely. I feel it is something that you do need to think about when you're a musician or as an artist, because essentially what you are is a brand. So like, obviously Instagram is one of the first things that people will look at. I know, like, if I'm searching an artist or like someone, I'll probably look at Instagram, see, because that's like the main thing, I feel. Yeah. So if you've got that all on point, I feel it is. And also it can kind of give like people an insight as to what you get up to. So I kind of do always feel like consciously as to how I can show what I'm up to and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Like tell a bit of a story about your kind of brand and put a person behind it. Yeah, I think that's super important. I want to kind of divert a little bit, so like it's quite nice on these to really get into a bit more of the kind of, I don't know, the weeds about production and like, you know, slightly technical stuff, even just like workflows and how people do stuff, because it is so different from producer to producer. And one thing I've noticed about your stuff is that your mix downs are just really clean, I think is the right word I'd put to it, like just very just nice. Again, like going back to Envoy, like very similar. They used to have really kind of smooth and nice kind of mix downs and whatnot. And I wondered, like, how do you go about? Well, first of all, how did you kind of get to that level? Was it just a lot of referencing to other producers, or were you doing some sort of course when you were at uni? Like, how did you develop those skills?
I think, if anything, it was largely to do with obviously living in a house full of producers who are, I think one of the best people I know from mixing is Adrian. So that's Mad Villa.
Sick.
And who I used to live with. I remember like there would be times where I would just like show him like a mix or something I've done, and he would literally say, "I need to change this. Like this could sound a lot better." And it's so refreshing having someone like that who you live with, who can kind of just tell you straight like what needs work. And then I think through the years, it's just kind of like helped, and it can really like help with mix downs, with your production, things like that. So I feel that is definitely something that's helped me anyway. Like knowing people and helping each other really. Like I think when you get to know people in your network, it's good to kind of like send each other music and trying to give each other feedback really and help each other to progress. So I think that's something that I'm lucky to have had like over the years.
Yeah, it definitely shows, man. Like I said, it's just very, very high level of production that you put out. Like each track I kind of know is going to have that kind of Crvvcks sound, like, and it's also going to have that Crvvcks kind of mix as well, like nice kind of smooth, clean sound. And I've always told that to like anyone I've done production coaching with, or people who ask me questions. They're always like, how do I improve as quickly as possible? Like I find I'm just stuck. Like I don't know how to, I'm watching all these YouTube tutorials. I'm watching, anything I can find on the internet. I'm like, you have to be sending your stuff to other people all the time and getting that feedback from real people who are ideally better than you. Like you want people who are, you aspire to be at their level, and just get them to basically rip your track apart and say, oh, this needs changing, that needs changing. Like put your ego aside and be like, this is what you need to do. And that's how you kind of grow and progress as quickly as possible.
Yeah, totally. It's also time as well. I think time plays a massive factor in these sorts of things. And I remember like a few years ago, I wasn't the greatest at mixdowns. And I mean, I wasn't the greatest, and it's just a case of kind of, as you said, putting your ego aside and just trying to learn.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to get better once you learn how to do these things. So.
Yeah, for sure. I had to do that today as well. I got I literally just before this. So Aero, the record label, the guys on YouTube. They want to sign a track that I've done recently, which is sick because I haven't actually had like a proper. I had one proper signing. Long story short, I used to do like EDM type stuff, like much more like big room house and like the stuff that's really popular in the States. And then only for like the last 3 or 4 months, I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like literally all I listen to at the moment is house music. Like why the fuck am I not producing this? Why am I not trying to network with people within it? And already I've got the first like contract through. But anyway, that's not me bragging. There's a point to that. It's kind of
that's good.
They said, we really like this, but we need to redo the mixdown. Like we need to redo the mixdown and master. And I thought this was my like best one yet in terms of mixdown and master. So I was like, oh shit, I still got got a ways to go, obviously. But that's kind of the game. You've got to just constantly be striving to have a better sound and like a
definitely, man. Even now, I'll always send like something to a manager, for instance, and he's probably the biggest critic as well. Like I'll literally send something to him. I remember the other day I pretty much wrote like a tune all night, and I sent it to him in early hours. So I went to sleep, and he woke up and he went, "Oh, you need to change this. This is not the greatest." I was like, literally going to bed thinking, "Oh, he's gonna like this."
Yeah.
And he just like straight away said, "Oh, no, you need to change this and this." And to some people that might like be not the greatest thing to hear, but it just I think if you want it hard, it should motivate you. It should make you want to keep going and make something really good.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. So. It's a mindset thing, like you said. Like if your goal is to constantly be getting better and constantly trying to improve and get a bit more professional with every release, and you have these kind of thought processes, then you're going to welcome any feedback from people you respect, right? Maybe not just an average person, but like if that person's got a good ear and knows what a solid house track or whatever genre track is, you're going to trust what they say, and that's how you kind of grow with it. What have you what kind of plugins? That was it. Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Like, are there any plugins or cool production things that you've come across recently that you are absolutely hammering at the moment? Like, for example, Highbell, one of the guests I had previously, was talking about Soothe being like a really sick plugin. I can't remember what the other ones were, but yeah, is there anything on the technical side of things that you're really fucking with at the moment?
Well, there's loads of stuff. I'm really liking the Sound Toys plugins. It's like a lot of effects plugins. I really like them. I use them quite a lot on like vocals. Can be even for your drums.
Really?
Sound Toys, really. Yeah, you can use them for drums. It's really sick. I'm really liking a lot of the Waves plugins. And to be fair, I'm actually quite late to the Wave stuff because I remember a lot of my housemates when I was in uni, they were all using it, and I just thought, because there's so much Waves plugins, I thought, I don't know about this, and I decided to get it, and there's so many good like Waves plugins that I use for my production. I started using this new plugin actually called Regroover.
Nice.
Essentially, what it does is, say if you have like a loop, like a loop sample, it literally picks up the different layers of the loop, so you can literally put it through it, and it'll take each parts of that loop, so you can solo them. So yeah, it's a really really sick plugin that I've found recently.
That's mad. Yeah. So it literally like separates out the different.
Yeah, it separates out all the different instruments.
Oh, wicked!
It does it really well.
I'm gonna write that down. Well. Yeah, I need that in my life.
Do it. Regroover Pro. It's a really sick plugin.
That's wicked. But yeah, like while we're on the kind of production side of things, just generally speaking, how do you go about starting a new track? Is it kind of different every time? Do you have a tried and tested method that you do to get things going? Like, do you start with melody? Do you start with drums?
So it's kind of changed really over time. I feel like one of the best ways to start with, I kind of just went in with like chords. I always start writing with chords. Whether I put it all in, like the chords wise on what I'm feeling. But more so like recent at the moment, I've been getting like I'll get like a vocal from, say, someone who sent it to Chris, and then I'll work from that really. Because I feel that's like a lot more easier to write a track when you have like the certain vocal parts.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one of like the best way to write anyway. If you have like a vocal or anything to work with, you can kind of like you can write it in a certain structure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Like the quickest tracks I've ever made have always been remixes or ones where the vocals have already been done for me, and it's just like bam, because you hear stuff as you're listening to the vocal, right? You kind of like, oh, that'd be sick with this, that'd be sick with this,
totally,
and you run through on that.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you don't have access to that sort of stuff, I feel like even if you got like an acapella or something and wrote to it and then took away the acapella, you have literally an instrumental there that can go and work with a vocalist with, because then you have like all the certain parts. You have like the intro, the chorus, then a mid-lay or the break, and then you have the last chorus. So I feel like if you work like that, you can kind of get your structure down. And that's something that I've like learned recently, is how to like structure a track properly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I remember doing Deadmau5's Masterclass like ages ago when Masterclass was quite trendy and new, and now it seems like everyone's doing a Masterclass. But yeah, that one was good, and he said, don't be afraid to make a remix of something that you have no ability to make official. Like he was like, even if you know that's never going to go out, or even if you're like not sure. So I think he used an example of, he did a remix for some artists, and the kind of legal side of things broke down and he couldn't use it, and he was like, but because the way I make my remixes is I just make a whole new song, basically. I don't use that much. I basically just use the vocals and that's it. He was like, yeah, just delete that and there you go, I've got my own track. Like you said, which I think is great advice for new people as well, like write to a vocal and then take it away and then take that to another vocalist and see what they can come up with. And then you've got your whole brand new track.
That's something that's literally happened to me recently. I did like a full remix for, I think it's Lennon Stella. She's like
sick.
Quite a big artist actually. I did like a whole remix. And I remember listening to it thinking, oh yeah, this is quite sick. I've done like a good remix here. Then it was actually for Sony actually. It was for Sony, and then I sent it to them. Then they came back and declined it. They said, "Oh, we don't want this. It's not what we're looking for."
Right.
It's kind of like, oh. But then I've now got a track that is an instrumental. So yeah, it's something I've literally been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's like covering your own arse, really. You kind of
it is.
Just make it up, make it your style, make it a you track, and then if it all goes wrong, take the vocal off and do something else with it, and that hard work isn't wasted.
Yeah,
because you definitely get people who make remixes where they use so much of the original, like they've done something really cool, like the guitars, and they've done cool bits with the piano, and then if it falls through, you can't just strip away the vocals because there's still other bits. Of
definitely original. Which is why for me anyway, when I'm working on a remix, I do quite like to make sure that the predominantly of the instruments is mine. Because I feel like if you take, I think most of the time I would literally get like maybe the hook of the track, like the little melody, the motif, and the vocal. That's all I would take from when I'm doing my remixes.
Yeah.
Because I feel,
I think
like that's the best way.
I agree. It's the way to do it. Like, and personally speaking, I think those are the best remixes, right? Where there's a whole new spin on it and it turns into like a whole new track. That's kind of the vibe of it. In terms of like production itself and working on stuff, like you obviously mentioned, you'd been doing some sessions recently. Obviously I saw on Instagram recently you were down in Tile Yard, which is sick because that's just an awesome studio, and I imagine you're doing some cool stuff there. Do you like working with other people? Do you like collaborating, or are you a bit more of a solo person who likes working on their own stuff? Like, how does it work with you?
I'm a bit both, I really do like getting in a session with a vocalist or a producer, because I feel like in them senses it can sometimes always be synergy. You can always like straight away get into the session and then you both just click and you write something. And that is definitely something that happened when I was being in London at Tile Yard. So it's also good to kind of speak about life really with another producer. Another artist, really, because we're all creatives and I feel like we're all kind of wired the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of like get in the session and talk about like the industry itself. So I think it's always good to get yourselves in those sorts of situations and meet people. Then obviously on the flip side, I do actually quite like working remotely by myself, because sometimes on the other end of it, it's like a session can always go either two ways, where you kind of just waiting to produce something. It can take quite a long time. So I feel like when you're in the session, you have to try and make the most of the time you have. But I think it's the two sorts of different situations, really.
Yeah, man, and I guess it goes back to that networking point you were talking about before. Like, you're not there just for the session, like you're there to actually, kind of have a conversation with someone and kind of forge those professional relationships a little bit better. I imagine it's probably a bit more difficult now, obviously with COVID and like physical sessions being a little bit more rare to come by. But yeah, it's always an interesting one. Everyone always has a different answer to that. Like, I know there's some producers who are very much like, they'd be happy if they saw people like once a month, you know, like just outside of their studio. And then there's other people who can't produce unless they have like their friends there and you know, girls there and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's interesting how it works with different people. In terms of staying on the kind of topic of production, I guess, if someone was gonna get started like tomorrow with, you know, perhaps they really like house music or just really like electronic music, whatever it may be, and they want to get going, maybe they've got some musical background, maybe they don't at all, how would you recommend people go about getting into stuff? Like, I've always been a proponent of people just messing around, like just get a program, just start going into it. But obviously you went to university for music production. Like, what would your approach be if you were like a 17, 18-year-old now, like figuring out what they want to do? Would you advocate for uni? Would you say mess around a bit by yourself at first?
I mean, I would always tell people just to start, to make the actual leap first, and actually obviously go in, write music, maybe even do what I did and download FL Studio on your family computer and just mess about. But I mean, yeah, I think that's the best way to go, really, is to just kind of make the initial start. Like, even if it's you going on to Photoshop and creating like a little logo for yourself, or kind of creating a Facebook page or an Instagram page, just basically making that first leap into you becoming an artist.
Yeah.
That is what is always gonna get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%.
In the end goal.
And I always advocate as well to people who are newly kind of starting out, is like, focus on the music more than you would the marketing and the, you know, like, don't neglect it. Like you said, make yourself a logo, make your stuff presentable, but don't be like spamming your first ever beat to like 1,000 people on SoundCloud or anything like that. Like, that's never going to get you anywhere. So like, focus on the music first and then the messaging afterwards. I guess on that theme as well, though, like, obviously we talked about it a little bit earlier when I was talking about like branding and how your stuff kind of has a certain aesthetic and it's all very coherent. Like, how would you advocate someone stand out in, let's say, the realm of house music, for example? Like, obviously one of the most popular EDM genres. Well, it's not really an EDM genre. That's kind of an American term. But yeah, you know, electronic music. And like, how would you go about standing out as a new producer in the realm of house music?
I guess essentially it is kind of like having your own sound, like having a style where people can go, oh yeah, that's a Gorgon City track, or that's a Just Kidding track, or that's an Endo track, for instance. I think that is a way to go. Initially, like, aim towards getting your sound. I think to start with, I think it's quite good to try and emulate those sorts of artists that you want to be. So, because if you know how to produce a track that an artist has made, it can lead you on to become creative and come up with your own ideas. I think, as well as that, you do need to kind of take into consideration the visual side of it, because obviously before anyone actually listens to your track, they're going to look at, say, piece of artwork that you've done, or like look at your Instagram. So I think it is a really good thing to take your image into consideration, like when you're obviously starting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's always a tricky one, right? It's like, how do you get the music to the right level, but how do you also at the same time not neglect the marketing and the branding and you know, make sure that you're standing out on that front as well. And ideally, like you said, you want your own sound, but you also kind of want your own image as well, because there's like, you know, hundreds, if not thousands, of DJs that kind of all at the same kind of wearing the black t-shirt and, you know, just kind of all professional press pictures, and everything's very like, I don't know, just kind of wet, you know. It's just not really any kind of uniqueness about it, but anything you can do to kind of inject a bit of personality into what you're doing, I think is always gonna help. I had a bit more of like a general question, and I've been asking this lately, and it's like you get some really interesting responses in terms of where people draw. It's essentially what keeps you driven. Like obviously you said that, you know, you kind of got into music as a teenager, or electronic music as a teenager, progressively I imagine got better at producing it and thought, okay, I can turn this into a career. But like we discussed earlier, you know, there's times where you're probably out of university, you know, people are maybe telling you to get a real job, or, you know, there's that kind of pressure that, you know, your friends around you are going off into respective careers and whatnot, and you're like, shit, like I need to make this work. Like what keeps you driven in terms of production and getting better and succeeding?
I think it's just me really. I love music so much, like that. It's something like I don't think there's ever been a day where I've not woken up and thought to myself, oh, what can I do to kind of like make sure that I am in a better position than I was yesterday. Yeah. I think that's something that you have to have if you want to be a music producer. It's like kind of like nearly a non-negotiable. Like, I don't think you can be an artist and just want it for the money or like the fame or whatever. I don't think you will be able to sustain it, because like I say, in the music industry, there is like a lot of stuff, especially now with obviously in the UK with the government saying that we should retrain and things like that. I feel this needs to be like essentially a full-time job. Like even though you're not getting paid from it at the start, but you do need to be really passionate about it, and I feel that's just something that I have essentially. But
that's awesome. Yeah, like again, I totally agree. And for people who've ever asked me, or like people I've coached or anything like that, I always try and advocate exactly what you said, but also just being like, well, what are you going to regret more? Like you putting everything into this, like trying your absolute best and then not working out, or you kind of faffing around, not really, you know, giving it your all, and then like 5-10 years down the line when you're in a different career or doing something else thinking, shit, I really could have maybe done something. I mean, I remember, so I at uni I did business, I didn't do music, just because I was like, I think I can do enough like by myself. Like in hindsight, maybe a music course would have been nice for the networking opportunities, and like you said, like your example, like living with other producers and whatnot, I was just living with other business people who just wanted to fucking go party and get drunk all the time. So it was, you know, a little distracting in terms of focusing on the music stuff. But like, I think that's I've lost my train of thought there, mate. my brain is scrambled. But yeah, I mean, going back to the point of just staying focused and driven, I think you just have to decide that like this is for you. Oh, that was it. No, that was it. Like the story was I did a placement year, right? In business, I was like project management or some shit. I barely even remember. Like I did so little work that year. Like I just used every available opportunity to like quote unquote work from home and just work on music, which I'm amazed they let me get away with. But anyway, there were people there who I'd talked to who were like in their 40s and 50s who were all actually like really into dance music, and I found that quite surprising because I was like, I wouldn't have expected it from people of your generation. But there were people like, yeah, I'm really into drum and bass, I'm really into dance music, and the number one thing that all of those people said were, oh yeah, I used to do a little bit of DJing, and like I kind of maybe wish I'd, you know, taken it a bit more seriously, or like I wish I'd done it a bit more. And there was that horrible like look of sadness in their face as they said it, and I was like, fuck, I definitely want to avoid that. Like, you know, you want to make sure that you've genuinely given it your absolute all before, you know, calling it quits on anything. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So what are your like longer term goals? Obviously you're now signed to a big record label. I imagine you want to put out as much good music on that as possible. I imagine when clubs and stuff start opening up, you want to get back involved with that. Are there any like specific visions that you have though, or like any massive shows that you've always dreamed of performing, or artists that you've always dreamed of working with?
Yeah, definitely. I think like I definitely don't feel like I'm at where I want to be. Like I think Sony is like now paying like all my hard work is kind of slowly getting there. I'm slowly kind of getting there. But in the future, I do want to obviously DJ more. Like I've never actually been to like places like Ibiza. I've never actually like DJed abroad. So that's something I really want to do. DJ abroad. I really want to make as much music as I can. Like it'd be really sick to collaborate with like big artists as well. I think one artist that I really love at the moment are Gorgon City. I really love their music. It'd be really great to work with Tiesto as well. I think he's like a really sick producer. I actually sometimes talk to him. I sent him some music actually.
No way, so, that's sick.
Yeah, because I did a track for his label. Like Palms was for his. It
was on Musical Freedom, wasn't it?
Yeah. After hours. So I sometimes send him tunes, and he sometimes replies to me and says, "Oh yeah, this is sick." So it'd be amazing to work on a track with him. I feel like he's like a big figure in the dance music scene, like, and he can like make your career. So I feel
100%. 100%. It's amazing how he's kind of stayed like at the top of the game for fucking decades.
Yeah,
like,
for years.
Like keeps innovating and it's like he there was that track recently, wasn't it? One he's put out, Down to Business, or whatever it's called. That's all like in that kind of
really sick deep
house kind of vein. So definitely catch him soon, man, before he gets onto the next genre or next trend or whatever.
Yeah. It's really sick the way how obviously he came from like a trance background and he's kind of become more current now. It's really sick that he was doing the more so EDM sound, that big room sound, and he's kind of obviously taking inspiration into the house scene in the UK. So I really think that he's doing really sick when it comes to merging his sound into the UK house scene. Yeah,
man. And just on that vein, like, what do you think the near future for house in the UK looks like? Like, obviously it's bubbled like at different points throughout the last decade and then the last 2 decades even. But like now I feel like it's really popping off once again. Like you've got people like Joel Corey in the charts. You've got like you said yourself, is you're signed to Sony, which is a massive deal. I think that if you look like 20 years ago, a house music artist signing to Sony would be probably pretty unheard of, to be honest. Like it's definitely a shift in times. Like what do you think the near future for house looks like, especially in the UK?
The near future, to be honest, I don't actually know. I feel like it's still going to be quite popular. Obviously, you have people like Joel Curry who are smashing it at the moment. You have people like Nathan Dorr, who also I think was in top 5. Those sorts of big house tunes. I just see house music getting bigger. I think the UK house scene and UK music in general is kind of taken over the world. Like I know that like in America that sound is quite big now. Like obviously they took like the dubstep, like the UK dubstep scene, and made it into their sort of version.
Yeah.
I think that's happening with UK house as well. I think that sort of genre is quite big in the States, and I just see that happening again. I see like a trend kind of becoming big in the UK and then it translating well around the world. So I think that's what's going to happen again in the next few years. Yeah,
it's interesting how it happened with, like you said, it happened with dubstep, it happened with like broader EDM. Like the Americans took a little while to get on board with it, and I agree. Like definitely now with people like Chris Lake and even like Chris Lorenzo and the guys who are like very UK based, that kind of stuff, they're really like popping off over there. And you got DJs like Jaws, like taking again some of the like UK based guys over there, so like Skepsis and,
definitely.
I can't remember who else, but like they're all going over there and doing shows.
Even people like Special Request, Paul Warford.
Yeah.
Like he's been around for so long. I remember listening to his music back when I was in uni, and now he's obviously just done this track with Diplo, and that's blown up, that tune. So
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is proper crazy. I do see like the UK being like a big force when it comes to the dance scene.
Yeah, man. I think that's why it's kind of sad that, like, obviously it's never fun to take things political, but like you mentioned earlier, like the whole UK government message of you guys have got to retrain or figure out what you've got to do, and you've got like these older, like a bit more clueless politicians and other sort of people appearing on news shows like, well, look, the nightclub industry is not bringing in any money right now, so therefore you guys, I'm sorry, you have to suck up and do something else. Like, I just think that's utter bullshit and very like short-sighted and kind of viewing life through the medium of revenue. I think it's sad, like you said, because the UK is such a amazing driving force of new music, even to massive countries like the US. It's crazy.
Not even just in the dance music scene, it's just there's so much culture when it comes to nightlife, and the UK, I feel like it is definitely such a shame that like the government are treating this situation like this, because just looking back on like documentaries on different club nights that happened back on the old times of London, it's just it's quite sad that the government is kind of taking the stance that they are in this situation.
It is, man. It's super sad, and like that's part of the reason why I moved down to London, because I didn't actually come from that far away. I used to live in Surrey, which is only like 20 minutes on the train from where I live now, but it's just such a massive difference. Like we haven't really done, like my flatmate and I, we haven't really done that much social stuff, but over the last couple of years, like we've been going out in London like almost constantly, and the clubs are just like unbelievably good. Like Ministry of Sound, I think, is one of my favourite clubs I've ever been to, like in any country, and I've been fortunate enough to go to clubs in like America, places in Europe and that kind of stuff, and it's just like it's up there. It's so good. And then Printworks, and you got like even the smaller ones like Egg and stuff like that, and that's only just within London. Like you were describing Leeds earlier, and some of the sick stuff that's up there, and it's it's a shame, man.
Definitely, man.
I don't have any more like specific questions, man. I don't know if there's anything else anything you're working on that you wanted to plug. Like I said to you before, I don't have like a huge audience, so maybe you don't want to like advertise anything or like expect anything from that. Fun. But
that's fun. What have I got at the minute? I've got actually a new single coming out very soon.
Sick.
I can't really say the date just yet. I'm gonna announce that soon.
Nice.
But yeah, I've got a new tune coming out. That's on Sony.
Wicked.
Insanity. So yeah, that's coming out, and then just more music really. I think early next year I've got another single as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's such a shame, man. The whole COVID thing. I hope it would be so great to be playing shows.
Yeah.
And playing out these tunes that I have.
Yeah.
But so I think this is like the first year, New Year's, that I won't be like DJing or doing anything.
Oh man, that's gonna be weird.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I've got going on at the minute. Just music, really. Just working on music, trying to get as much done for next year. I think next year will be the year that I'm gonna try and like fully smash it.
Just pop off, yeah. Well, man, you're already doing absolute bits, like in terms of not only the music you're putting out, but like you said, you've already got signed to Sony. Like you've clearly got like all the kind of network together. You've got the brand together. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't pop off like massively next year, especially with house music, like we said, doing what it is doing at the moment. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you sitting down for an hour with basically a complete stranger on the internet and just having a chat. Right, man. I find it super useful as well, man. I love doing these because like I said, I'm quite new into this genre and this scene, and it's just nice to kind of get insight and knowledge from the source. So I really appreciate that, man.